The day began like any other in Brisbane. Hannah Clark secured her 3 children in the car for the routine school drop-off. But within moments, everything took a horrific turn. A man washing his vehicle heard her terrified screams. A driver passing by saw her engulfed in flames as she tried to flee. A neighbor hurried over with a fire extinguisher, only to witness the car erupt in an explosion. What was unfolding? Why was Hannah crying out for her children? And who was the man beside her clutching jerry cans of fuel? This was no accident. It was something far more sinister. A nightmare that had been escalating for years. Hannah Clark was born on September 8, 1988, in Brisbane, Australia, to her devoted parents, Sue and Lloyd. From the start, she was known for her bright, outgoing nature and boundless energy. She had an effortless way of lifting people's spirits, and even as a child, she dreamed of becoming a mother. She was deeply connected to her younger brother, often stepping into a protective, caring role as the older sibling. Gifted in athletics, Hannah became a standout in trampoline gymnastics, representing her state by the age of 16. Her strong leadership became evident in her final year of school, when she was selected as school captain, a role reserved for students admired and respected by their peers. After finishing school, she followed her passion for helping young people, teaching children's gymnastics at the Police Citizens Youth Club. She met Rowan Baxter while working there when she was 20 and he was 31, a meeting that would ultimately alter the course of her life. Rowan, born on May 9, 1977, in New Zealand, had grown up amid turmoil and uncertainty. His father's imprisonment during his early years left a lasting mark on his childhood. Family members remembered Rowan as a volatile child with a disturbing streak of cruelty. One cousin even admitted to being afraid of him, linking his behavior to a deeply ingrained family history of misogyny. Despite his troubled beginnings, Rowan pursued athletics, playing rugby for Tauranga Boys College before earning a contract with the New Zealand Warriors Rugby League team in 2005. Although he was technically part of the team, he never appeared in an official match, earning only a modest $10,000 yearly contract. Even so, he often introduced himself as a former professional rugby player, using the title to elevate his reputation in both personal and work environments. Those who knew Rowan described him as extremely competitive, controlling, and quick to anger. He had an overpowering need to assert dominance over others and could not tolerate rejection. Before crossing paths with Hannah, Rowan had already been married and had a son from that relationship. He married at 18, while his wife was only 16. By the time their son reached the age of 2, Rowan's controlling behavior had become intolerable. His wife wanted to leave, but he refused to allow her to walk away. He turned to stalking and intimidation. In one disturbing incident, he told her he had placed a hosepipe in his car and had considered a dark fate for himself and their child. Feeling cornered and unsafe, she remained with him despite her fear. In 2008, while Hannah was coaching gymnastics, Rowan's son took part in one of her classes. That moment marked Hannah and Rowan's first meeting, even though he was still married at the time. He began pursuing Hannah, insisting his marriage was already finished and that he was only living with his wife for their son's well-being. Just a few months into their affair, Rowan formally ended his marriage, moved out, and agreed to co-parent. Yet his aggressive behavior didn't fade. He continued to intimidate his ex-wife whenever conflicts over parenting arose. Around 6 months into his relationship with Hannah, she discovered she was pregnant. Although she wanted to keep the baby, Rowan pressured her to terminate the pregnancy, insisting she was too young to handle the responsibility. In October 2012, Hannah and Rowan married, and at the time, she was 14 weeks pregnant with their first child. Soon after the wedding, Rowan stopped paying child support for the son from his previous marriage. On April 10, 2013, their daughter Aaliyah was born. She grew into a bright, expressive child who loved reading and had a strong sense of right and wrong. Even at a young age, she noticed how her father treated her mother and wasn't afraid to challenge him. In January 2015, with their shared passion for fitness, the couple opened a gym they named Integrate Gym. Though Hannah's parents and another investor helped fund the gym, the business ultimately struggled to stay afloat. During this period, Their second daughter, Liana, was born on March 19, 2015. She had a gentle, calming presence and often played the role of mediator in the household. Strongly resembling Hannah, she would try to soothe her father whenever he lashed out in anger. Their third and youngest child, Trey, arrived on December 4, 2016. Trey, deeply attached to his mother, loved to run and play but was most content when close to her. As the years went on, Rowan's behavior grew even more controlling and hostile. His possessiveness over Hannah only intensified. He further curtailed her independence by insisting they share a joint Facebook account, refusing to let her have one of her own. Gradually, he cut her off from her previously close family, severely limiting her contact with them. His need for control extended to the children as well. If they didn't tidy up quickly enough, he would throw their toys away. He canceled activities they looked forward to as a way to punish Hannah. Once, after an argument, Rowan left the house with the children in tears. Hannah called her mother to talk, but later Rowan confronted her and repeated the entire conversation back to her, word for word. When she asked how he knew, he told a coworker he had accidentally left his phone recording. The coworker expressed concern, pointing out that secretly recording Hannah was wrong, but Rowan brushed it off. He also exerted control over their intimate life, demanding daily compliance, and if she refused, he would provoke arguments that made her life unbearable. In one especially frightening incident, he smashed her watch in a violent outburst before storming out of the house. Terrified that he might harm himself, Hannah called her mother in a panic. Fearing the worst, her parents drove around Brisbane searching for him. When Rowan eventually returned, he claimed he had gone to a church parking lot and had come close to ending his own life. By November 2019, Hannah had reached her limit. Desperate to get away, she reached out to a family violence resource center, sharing her fears and her uncertainty about how to leave safely, convinced that Rowan was watching her every move. With their help, she formed an escape plan. In December 2019, she put it into action. Taking only what she absolutely needed, Hannah picked up Aaliyah from school and went directly to her best friend's home. She left her phone in the car, believing Rowan was tracking her movements. The following day, she moved into her parents' home. On December 4th, Rowan contacted Relationships Australia, an organization that supports families in crisis. They offered him a counseling session for December 10th, but he never confirmed or showed up. 10 days later, on December 14th, he went to his doctor and revealed that Hannah had left him and taken the children. He admitted he struggled with control and broke down crying as he expressed regret for his behavior. He returned on December 16th for a mental health appointment and was prescribed temazepam, a medication commonly used for sleep problems. Meanwhile, on December 6th, Hannah pursued legal protection. She went to the police, where she was advised to apply for a domestic violence order against Rowan. But she hesitated, fearing that taking legal action might provoke him further. Despite her worries, Hannah kept communicating with Rowan, hoping he would stay involved with the children. He continued to manipulate her, urging her to think of the kids and suggesting she was damaging them by leaving. He also began telling her parents that she was mentally unstable, claiming he had done nothing wrong. This turned into an exhausting cycle. Rowan would promise to bring the children back, then change his mind at the last moment, sending Hannah into a state of panic. His harassment escalated, mirroring the behavior he had shown in his previous marriage. He began appearing without warning, letting himself into her parents' home and stalking her. On December 26, 2019, he was supposed to return the children after having them for the day. When Hannah arrived to collect the children, he hurled Liana into the front seat of his car and sped away. A concerned bystander who witnessed the scene flagged down a nearby police car. Officers spoke with Hannah, but without formal custody orders, they had no legal authority to intervene. They tried contacting Rowan and even went to his home, but he was nowhere to be found. Later that night, he FaceTimed Hannah and issued a demand, claiming he would not return Liana unless she ended a supposed affair. Exhausted and overwhelmed, Hannah reached out to her lawyer, who prepared a formal letter insisting on Liana's return. As police grew more alarmed by Rowan's behavior, they decided to proceed with a domestic violence order on Hannah's behalf, even if she wasn't yet ready to file one herself. Officers eventually found Rowan at his home just as he was putting Liana into his car. They informed him about the court order, which barred him from coming within 300 feet of Hannah or the children until a hearing could decide permanent custody. Police then took Liana into their care and brought her back to Hannah. Rowan was forbidden from contacting any of them until January 4, 2020, when they were all scheduled to appear in court. During a welfare check, officers noticed that Liana seemed frightened. Since the abduction, she had developed intense separation anxiety and refused to let her mother out of her sight. Authorities advised Hannah to take the children to child-aware psychology for support, though they never ended up going as part of the police process. Hannah submitted a detailed statement outlining the abuse she had suffered. She explained that Rowan pressured her into having sex with him every night while verbally degrading her. He would insult her, calling her disgusting and comparing being intimate with her to, in his words, having sex with a bucket. Hannah also revealed that she had long feared for her life and her children's safety. Rowan had described, in disturbing detail, a plan to kill his ex-wife, their son, and himself. This left Hannah terrified that he might attempt something similar with her and the children. More evidence of Rowan's troubling behavior appeared on social media. In several videos he posted, he played dangerously rough with the kids, at times crossing into outright violence. In one especially disturbing clip, he forced them into an ice bath while little Trey cried uncontrollably. Despite all of this, Rowan continued twisting the story to suit himself, even as Hannah submitted her statement. He contacted the police, insisting that he was the one who felt threatened by her. On December 29, 2019, Rowan attended his first counseling session as part of what he portrayed as mental health treatment. According to session notes, he admitted to issues with jealousy and acknowledged that Hannah had left because of his controlling behavior. Yet no thorough family violence risk assessment was done. The session focused mostly on simple coping strategies like breathing exercises, failing to address the seriousness of his actions. His mental health evaluation suggested moderate depression and anxiety, and he denied having any intention of harming himself or anyone else. On December 31st, he returned for another session, where he mentioned that a protection order had been placed against him. He claimed Hannah had invented everything and said he was heartbroken over being kept from his children. Notes from the session show that he and the counselor talked about the emotional toll of being separated from his kids. Yet once again, no formal risk assessment was carried out. Rowan continued with counseling, returning on January 6th. That day, he complained that their gym had closed and blamed Hannah for discussing their private matters, which he believed had damaged his reputation. He said he wanted joint custody of the children despite the growing concerns. Still, no risk assessment was performed, and the session focused only on helping him cope by trying new activities. On January 8th, their case went before the court. Rowan contested the domestic violence order, but the decision ultimately went in Hannah's favor. The court ruled that he was forbidden from committing any form of family violence, exposing the children to harm, approaching within 300 feet of Hannah's home, or contacting her for any reason unrelated to the children. Ignoring the setback, Rowan sought legal guidance from a men's legal service on January 17th. He claimed he feared Hannah and believed she intended to take the children and vanish, cutting him out of their lives entirely. Meanwhile, his behavior grew even more disturbing. He began showing up at the same cafes and stores as Hannah, encounters that happened far too often to be coincidence. She grew increasingly convinced he had placed a tracking device on her car. Rowan's monitoring of her intensified after he attended another counseling session on January 21st, during which he insisted he was being unfairly portrayed as mentally unstable to limit his access to the children. Determined to overturn the domestic violence order, his lawyer submitted a letter to the court arguing that Hannah had only sought it to regain custody of Liana. On January 23rd, the court issued its final custody ruling, granting Hannah full custody while giving Rowan alternating weekends with the children. Every other week, they were to stay with him from Thursday to Friday, with shared holidays and scheduled FaceTime calls. All exchanges were required to take place at Hannah's parents' home. Despite the formal arrangements, The children were clearly distressed by the situation. They often expressed hesitation about seeing their father, especially Aaliyah. During one overnight stay, Aaliyah called Hannah crying, saying they were driving somewhere but she didn't know where they were being taken. On January 31st, Rowan returned Trey later than the agreed-upon time. When Hannah unbuckled her son from the car, she noticed explicit photos of herself left deliberately in view. Shaken, she grabbed the photos and turned to head inside, but Rowan abruptly stepped out of the car and twisted her wrist behind her back. Alarmed, Hannah's mother immediately called the police. Rowan denied everything and tried to file a domestic violence order against Hannah in retaliation. A doctor later confirmed that Hannah had a sprained wrist and fitted her with a splint. She reported both the assault and the breach of the domestic violence order to police, but when officers attempted to question Rowan, he refused to speak without a lawyer. Meanwhile, Rowan's life was falling apart. He lost his job as a personal trainer, and Hannah's lawyers notified his legal team that because of the latest incident, she would no longer be following the parenting agreement, meaning Rowan would no longer have access to the children. Enraged, he became consumed by anger. He saw himself as the injured party, and his refusal to acknowledge his own actions only deepened his resentment toward Hannah. Despite violating the domestic violence order, police did not detain him immediately, instead issuing a notice to appear in court. He was also charged with common assault for causing Hannah's wrist injury. On February 17th, Rowan went to a hardware store and bought zip ties, a jerry can, and denatured alcohol. The following day, he filled the jerry can with 5 liters of gasoline. While making these purchases, he also picked up 3 Kinder Surprise eggs and some lollipops. At 3:28 p.m. on February 18th, he contacted Youth and Family Services to ask about a men's support program. 30 minutes later, he called a men's helpline with the same inquiry. That evening, at 6:25 p.m., he phoned a friend in tears, saying he was unable to see his children. After a long moment of silence during the scheduled FaceTime call, he didn't speak at all, only sat there crying. Sensing something terribly wrong, Hannah felt a chilling certainty that danger was close. She confided in her mother, saying she needed to write a will because if Rowan killed her, he would end up in prison, and someone would have to raise the children. She also told a friend at the gym that she believed Rowan was going to harm the kids, or worse. Her deepest fears were about to come true. On the morning of February 19, 2020, Hannah and her mother followed their usual routine and went to the gym. Afterward, Hannah arrived home at 6:20 a.m., then stepped back out to pick up coffee for herself and her mother. She later sat on her mother's bed sipping her drink while her mom got ready for work. The children stayed close by. At 7:20 a.m., Sue kissed Hannah and the kids goodbye, not knowing it would be the final time she ever saw them alive. Hannah buckled her 3 children into the car to take Aaliyah and Liana to school. Trey sat strapped into his seat in the middle, while Liana was positioned behind the passenger side. Just as Hannah started the engine, Rowan suddenly appeared, leaping into the passenger seat. Holding a jerrycan filled with gasoline, he demanded that she start driving. Terrified, Hannah screamed at him to get out. She managed to drive only a short distance before stopping near a man who was outside washing his car. In desperation, she yelled for help. "Call the police! He's going to kill me. He's poured petrol on me." The man turned to see Rowan pinning Hannah down, preventing her from escaping. She fought to break free, but Rowan stayed disturbingly calm, maintaining full control. Then, in a split second, Hannah broke free and stumbled out of the car. But it was too late. Rowan had already ignited the fuel. Fire swallowed the vehicle and flames tore across her body. The man reacted instantly. Seeing her burning, he shouted for her to roll on the ground while he grabbed his hose to put out the fire. Once he managed to extinguish the flames on Hannah, he turned the water on Rowan, whose clothes had also caught alight. As the reality of what was happening hit, Hannah cried out about her children. Understanding her words, the man rushed inside to call emergency services. When he returned, another passerby, Samantha, had arrived. She'd seen thick black smoke while driving and had raced toward the scene. She took hold of the hose and continued fighting the flames. Samantha stayed by Hannah's side, comforting her while they waited for emergency crews to arrive. Racked with pain, Hannah kept pleading for news about her children nearby. Another neighbor, Carrie Fernandez, heard Hannah's anguished screams the moment she noticed the burning vehicle. She immediately called for help and stayed on the phone with dispatchers as she watched the scene unfold. Moments later, the car burst into a massive fireball. Carrie grabbed a fire extinguisher and ran toward the vehicle, desperately attempting to beat back the flames. The heat was so intense that the car began rolling backward, prompting bystanders to shout warnings for her to stay safe. Hannah, barely able to stay on her feet, cried out in overwhelming despair, "My kids!" Investigators would later learn that Rowan had placed the fuel-filled jerry cans directly in front of Aaliyah's seat, ensuring the explosion ignited right where her feet had been. Although Rowan wasn't carrying any fuel himself, each of the children had fuel on them, and so did Hannah. As the blaze intensified, Rowan suddenly dove back into the burning car. For a brief moment, it looked like he might be attempting to rescue the children, but instead he grabbed something and leapt out again. A bystander quickly realized what Rowan had taken: a knife. Understanding the danger, he shouted a warning to Carrie Fernandez, who was still trying to control the fire with the extinguisher. She stepped back as Rowan, now armed, prepared for his final act. Without pause, Rowan knelt down, placed the knife's tip against his chest, and threw himself onto it. He curled up on the ground and died soon afterward. The destruction Rowan caused could never be undone. In just one morning, he ended the lives of his 3 children, Alea, Liana, and Trey, and left Hannah with burns over nearly her entire body. Even as first responders reached the scene, Hannah could only think of her kids. She kept pleading, "Are they okay? Did someone get them out?" But the paramedics already knew the reality. There were no words that could lessen her suffering. Instead, they encouraged her to concentrate on her own survival, aware she had only moments before she would lose consciousness. Hannah called her father, and when Lloyd Clark answered, he heard nothing but silence. He assumed it was an accidental call, maybe from one of the children, and ended the call. Only later did he discover the tragic meaning behind it. It had been Hannah unable to speak, making one last attempt to reach out to her dad. At 4:50 p.m. that same day, Hannah succumbed to her injuries. She was the last in her family to die. After Rowan's death, authorities found a chilling note on his phone. It read, "I'm finishing your game. I don't want to play anymore. You can't mess with someone's life like this and expect them to take it. I have told the kids that you love them. They will miss you, I'm sure." Autopsy reports revealed the full horror of what had happened. Hannah died from multi-organ failure due to the severity of her burns. Alea, only 6 years old, suffered burns over 100% of her body. Her blood showed toxic levels of carbon monoxide, but that was not what killed her. This meant she was still alive as the fire overtook her. Liana, only 4, died from a combination of severe burns, smoke inhalation, and other injuries caused by the blaze. Trey, barely 2, suffered the same tragic end. Rowan, who fatally stabbed himself in the heart, had no drugs or alcohol in his system. His brain showed no abnormalities, confirming that his horrific actions were not the result of a mental collapse, but a deliberate, calculated choice. The events of February 19, 2020 sent a wave of grief and outrage across Australia. For many, it revealed a painful reality. Coercive control, the psychological and emotional abuse Rowan had inflicted on Hannah for years, was still poorly recognized and often not treated as domestic violence. On March 9, 2020, Hannah, Alea, Liana, and Trey were buried together in a single coffin. Her brother, heartbroken and overwhelmed with grief, offered his final words. "I am so sorry I couldn't protect you. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant."